2023. This meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. This meeting will be recorded by pac-tv. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by viewing the Duxbury Government Access Channels, Verizon 39 or Comcast 9, and viewers can visit pactv.org/Duxbury for information about Duxbury programming, including streaming and watching replays on Duxbury YouTube. I call this meeting to order, and the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is open forum. This is an item that we cannot deliberate about because it's not on the agenda. If you could keep your remarks short and alert us to whatever concern you have, we can potentially add it to a future agenda. You just need to give your name and street address, and you're welcome to come to the podium. But I'm going to start with my board members, if they have any open forum. Go ahead.
Thank you. We had a fantastic volunteer event this past Thursday evening, Mr. Chairman. All the town invited all the members of the boards and committees. We have over 50 groups in all. The event was very, very well attended, and there were many folks involved to make it happen. And I'd like to just call out a few folks in particular who put a lot of work into it. Nancy O'Connor, Michelle Zeta-Stotts, Joanne Moore, Jeannie Horn, Kim DeGrace, Nicole DeGennaro, and of course Rainey Reed. And importantly, a special thanks to the generous donation of food, cookies, pastries, key lime pies, lemon squares, and many other baked goods, as well as coffee and supplies from the Foodsmith, My Little Bakery, Welch Senior Living, The Village, Duxbury High School Bread Board, Roach Brothers, Big Y, and Stop and Shop. Thank you again to everyone who gives of their time and talents by volunteering on a Duxbury Board of Committee, as you're the folks who make our town the great place that it is today. Thank you.
Anyone else?
No, I'll second that, though.
Okay. Yeah, it was an excellent event. Anyone else from the audience for open forum? All right. We move on to new business. We have a discussion and vote regarding pole and conduit petition request by Verizon and Eversource on East Street. Did you want to present that, Rainey?
Yep, I got it.
Thank you.
So we received petitions from Verizon and Enstar Eversource requesting permission to relocate 4 poles, which are existing facilities, and place 2 new poles and to place approximately 600 feet of underground conduit and 2 handholds along the northerly side of East Street, placed between a relocated pole on the East Street Bridge. These installations are being requested to accommodate and comply with the Mass DOT project, which is the East Street Bridge replacement, which spans over Route 3. An administrative hearing was held at my office on Wednesday, May 1st at 9 a.m. in my office, for which notifications were sent to the abutters by certified mail. In addition, the legal notice was published in the Duxbury Clipper on April 17th, 2024. And you have my memo regarding that, and the memo to the board and the corresponding documentation, and you have a proposed motion before you.
Just always ask, oh, actually, any board members have any questions before I ask them questions?
No.
Okay. Was this a notice given out to abutters or anything?
Mm-hmm.
Any response from abutters?
We had one abutter come in just to ask questions, but he had no concerns once we were underway. He understood everything.
Okay, great.
So just for the public to understand this a little bit, because we're doing the construction over the Route 3 bridge on East Street, they're looking to, there's no increase in the amount of poles. It's going to be the same amount. They're just moving them kind of slightly.
Mm-hmm.
And is that just because they needed to be replaced, so this is a good time to do it? Or is it because they carry more lines, or what is it just?
It's a good time to do it.
The bridge is going to be down for?
A year.
Right.
It'll be closed not long, it's part of my manager's report, but it'll be closed right around the close of school. So mid-June, and then it'll be closed for a year.
Fun times.
Massive inconvenience, but it'll be done quicker. It'll be done in a year instead of 2 as a result.
I will entertain a motion.
I move that the Select Board authorize the orders to relocate 4 poles, 9311/320, 321, 324, and 325, which are existing facilities, and place 2 new poles, 9311, 19S, and 9311, 26S, and to place approximately 600 feet of underground conduit and 2 handholds along with the northerly side of East Street, placed between relocated pole 9311/321 and 9311/324 on the East Street Bridge to accommodate and comply with Mass DOT project number 613005, the East Street Bridge replacement over Route 3, as presented, and with the conditions presented by DPW Director Sheila Scarzi, and that Verizon New England, Inc. and/or NStar Electric contact the Duxbury Department of Public Works at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of the project.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. The next discussion is with the Duxbury Recreation Collaborative regarding sports fields here in Duxbury. And I think we have some folks from the community that are going to present. If you could just introduce yourself and name and street address, that'd be great.
Of course. Drew Thawley, 254 West Street. I'm representing the Duxbury Recreation Collaborative for today's presentation. I hold a board position with the DRC, that's kind of the quick way of referring to it, and serve also as the president of Duxbury Youth Lacrosse. Additionally, I'm a coach, or have been a coach, in Duxbury Youth Basketball, Youth Soccer, Youth Lacrosse, etc. I've got 5 children ranging in the ages from 8 to 20. So we've spent a good bit of time in the school system and on our fields and courts. And I'd like to emphasize that I'm a non-compensated volunteer, as are all of us and all of those that serve in the youth capacity. I firmly believe that one of the most valuable gifts we can give as an adult to our children, or anyone for that matter, is our time, investing in them and our community to foster belief in a brighter future. This sentiment is shared by everyone. You've been provided a presentation. I know at least a couple of you have looked through it at least, so thank you for taking the time to do that. It'll make this a little bit faster and drive us towards Q&A more quickly, which I think we're all interested in. If we could go to the next slide, please. As she's working through that, our agenda tonight, just a quick introduction of who we are, where we've been, some comments on what our belief is in terms of uniting Duxbury and spirit and action, trying to imagine a future with some better solutions for our kids and our families and even our seniors in the community, how you can help, and then Q&A. Let's go to the next one, please. Our mission is, put concisely, we'd like to achieve safe, inclusive, competitive recreational spaces in town that look great, that are welcoming to people who visit our town, makes other people, our town's folks, proud of the facilities that are here, instead of, frankly, oftentimes embarrassed by them. While that would be wonderful, our driving concern really is safety and capacity of fields. And we'd like to really bring the whole community along for that ride. So you can read the mission word by word, but that's, I think, what it captures. And if we could move ahead. There are 11 youth sports programs in town. You'll see all 11 here. This is the first time I've been told by many people who have been here a lot longer than I, that this is the first time that all youth sports have collaborated around an objective of any sort, let alone this kind of a project. One of the great things that's been a byproduct of this, and some of you can appreciate this, I think, is we are working together as the president of each youth program on a lot of levels. We're certainly working to be here in front of you, but we work to collaborate on our schedules and our practice schedules so that families don't have to choose between sports. They can expose their kids to different options, particularly at the youngest of ages. We're working on ensuring that the fields are available for one another. It's a tough go, given the volume and the availability, but there's been some wonderful side benefit to this work, and I think we've all become friends and appreciated each other's programs along the way. And I think the parents in town are noticing that there's more collaboration, which is great, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We believe, well, we know, because we've combined our databases and looked, we can reach into about 1,500 homes, 1,600 homes in town pretty reliably, plus another of active families, plus another 500 to 700 of alumni families. So that's a lot of reach, and with a lot of common value, at least knowing that we've committed to being involved in youth sports at this time or at one point. 99% of our participants are residents of the town, as you might imagine, and we feel that our parents are quite motivated around this topic. If we can move on, a few years ago, talking about field safety, several of us united to initiate change, believing in our collective strength to make a significant difference. Many of us were frustrated with subpar field conditions, not just a little subpar, but dangerous oftentimes, and where we would, as a matter of fact, maybe jumping the gun a little bit here, but last year we had 2 games canceled because referees showed up and said, we can't play on these fields. These conditions are unacceptable. We either have to move or reschedule or find another place to go, which is, I've never seen that happen. I don't know if anybody's seen that happen before, but not cool and very concerning. But we were already kind of hot on the trail of the issue, and so it I don't think it surprised us, but it was something that hadn't happened before. You might imagine that in our roles as administrators within these programs, we feel the heat from parents oftentimes, because they're looking at us saying, hey, what's the deal? And lo and behold, we've invested lots of money and lots of time in the upkeep of the fields, as has the town. But the problem is really just insurmountable, in that no matter how much money we put in or how much care we give these spaces, they can't keep up with the usage, and I'll speak to that. So we established our group. If you might, there you go. That's okay. Really, the energy behind it was safety, and these are just some pictures of some photos from last year and the conditions that we faced. You can't really get an appreciation for the depth of some of these holes, but and certain sports are impacted more than others, for sure. I mean, some are much more sensitive to these issues than others, but universally, we all feel the pain. We've invested, actually, over the last 8 years, our youth programs, which parents pay for, over $400,000 in the upkeep of our town-owned, town-maintained fields, in different ways. Most of that's come from baseball. I'd say second in line is soccer. They've invested a lot of money in the fields. And part of that actually was hiring a firm called Activitas, who I'll speak to. If we could move on. I mean, I don't know if I've emphasized it enough about the field safety. I don't know if I'm able to ask if anybody else has anything to contribute to that.
I think we can go back to that after
Okay.
the presentation.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, this is good. We hired Activitas, so a very reputable firm that deals with these issues as a matter of their business. Our hypothesis was that we have a problem in town that's not fixable with money or time, unless we just got off the fields entirely, of course, but that only solves the condition problem, not the usage problem. So really there was no way, that was our hypothesis. We felt it anecdotally just in comparing notes, but we needed to prove it with data that in fact that was the case. So if we could, Activitas spent a lot of time with all of our programs, with rec and with the high school, doing a full assessment on field usage. Also the maintenance department on maintenance practices on those fields. So we did a full 360 look at okay, what's going into this from a usage plus a care perspective. And what they found wasn't good, but it confirmed what we thought, which, you know, was confirming for us and good. But DCF, if you're familiar with the abbreviation, that's the field right in front of Steel. It's the big grass one. It's used at 450% of its useful capacity. Brooks is used at 396% of its useful capacity. Train, which is the big space in front of the schools there, they're egregiously overused as well. Some of the baseball diamonds also incredibly overused. Coppins here, which is at Chandler, is seriously overused. Now, they grade maintenance levels 1 to 6. Okay, 6 is Fenway. If you've been to a Red Sox game, nice field. 6 is that. If we had 6 level care practices, here's where we would be. So we're still over here and here and here and here. So there's really there's nothing that the town can do. And we've met and spent a lot of time with different entities within the town, and want to be very clear that there's not an accusation that if they could just do more, we'd be fine. That's just not the case. In fact, what Activitas came back to us with was, if you were to go with natural turf fields, you would need 14 more surfaces to bring these numbers into balance. Of course, we don't have that kind of space here. We do, but I don't think any of us are willing to commit to that kind of space. So we have some proposals on how to solve this. Another driving issue that we've been facing is field scheduling. Yeah, that's okay. There you go. And actually, you can just go to the next one. Is field scheduling. So right now we have the rec department that has its scheduling system. We have the schools that have their scheduling system, and then they have all of us, all 11 of us that have our own scheduling systems. The schools operates pretty much behind a closed door, but we have access to it through a staff person. The rec, similar, but we have more access to that schedule to be able to see, resolve problems, look at availability, the whole thing. So thankfully, to Rainey here, we had a meeting about this specifically, and it was agreed that if we could come up with a workable solution, a platform, of course technology can solve this problem pretty easily, and we were willing to pay for it, that the town would adopt it. So we've gone through that process, and we've actually come up with a solution, and we're right on the eve of moving that forward. So we're working with the rec department and the schools to bring that to a level that's going to put us on par with some of the better scheduled towns. Good news is it'll help our scheduling. Bad news is it might possibly be able to have more activity on those fields. So, but the great thing is we think we've got an answer here in the town, and Rainey have been very gracious in helping us move that forward. So let's move on. You've read this. We think it's pretty powerful to imagine a town that's got a better solution for its rec spaces, what it might do for our seniors, what it might do for our mothers with strollers, being able to walk on paved pathways, being able to do these types of things in addition to all the benefits that it brings to the youth. So we ask that you allow yourself, as we have, to envision what that might look like, because it is possible. It is actually possible to do. If we can move on. Beautiful spaces that we're proud of. Facilities that are safe. Sufficient to handle future and current usage, or current and future usage. Almost to a program, our activity level, our registration numbers are boom, 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 boom. Up, 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 up. And as it seems, and I don't know if demographically this is true, that the town is getting younger. This is only projected to continue in this regard. Fields that are accessible to all, used by a spectrum of ages, and this is key, self-sustaining. So how do we create a solution from a funding perspective that can regenerate itself on a rotational basis that financially makes sense? If we could move on. So imagine, this is the big one, that's Chandler. The baseball diamond exists as it does there. Coppins on the lower left is in a little bit of a different position. You have to go all the way around the back and then cut through where kids are running between fields. Imagine if we re-engineered that, added a playing surface behind it, and added a playing surface behind Chandler. This site was looked at once upon a time. It was deemed, from what we understand, not able to proceed due to a lack of water, which is kind of interesting because there's this massive bog over here. But these are proposed as turfed fields. These lines you see meandering around are walking paths that are paved, and they actually connect in with the existing, is it East Street Bog area? We've presented this to the school committee, this and everything else that you're seeing to the school committee, and have met with their support so much as they've given us a liaison, and of course there's no formal activity at that point, but they've given us kind of their thumbs up to, like, let's keep walking forward and seeing what this looks like here. The other nice thing, if you have been like I have with kids in multiple sports, this actually likely reduces road traffic. You can actually be in one spot and get to multiple places with bathroom facilities and ample parking and a place to walk, which is something that we don't currently have too much of at this point. If you could continue. That site that you just saw could have things that look like this. Suitable to town. Do we need a lit hockey rink down there? I don't know. Do we need a dog park? I don't necessarily know. Do we need walking paths? Absolutely. Do we need places to picnic? Absolutely. Places to sit under a tree and watch a game? Certainly. And these other things are certainly within the realm of possibility, if that's what we choose to shoot for. If we can continue to the Keene site. If you're familiar with Keene, it kind of looks like this, except parking's a mess, and it's only getting worse because they built those big, beautiful homes on that road. It's only a matter of time when there's a lacrosse game and a baseball game that something's going to. You've been on that road. If it's a Friday night or a Saturday or something, it's a mess over there. We propose to actually get rid of the lacrosse field and make this a full bat and ball facility, so all baseball and softball. If we can move on. I think everybody knows that the DCF and Brooks in front of Steele are desperate to be turfed. And I've heard that the school may be looking at some kind of budget. Our request would be, let's work together. Because if we're going to do it on the budget that the school has available, the result's going to be one thing. If we're going to work with this budget that the school has available, plus the budget we may be able to come up with, the answer and the look might be something different and better. So let's really think about it and not shoot from the hip on a solution here. Also reconstituting the upper softball field here, which is really a mess right now. So really improving that whole site without adding any new fields. If we can move on to train, or some people call it pool, because where am I? Because there's the pool. Make this an actual proper high school diamond with a fence, and make it a proper high school field. Natural turf, not synthetic turf. But really improve this space, make it nice. It's the feature of our school when you drive into that whole area. So let's fix it up and let's make it safe and usable by the high school. And then let's move on again. Turkiln. These are probably two of the best diamonds on the South Shore. But getting to them and parking and access, especially with pickleball now, is kind of a train wreck, if you will. We could easily fix that problem and make it a much more attractive, particularly for our senior community. Put some screening in. Let's invest in that area down there where pickleball is, because it does seem like it's a sport that's here to stay. If we can move on. So to the left is what I showed you before. To the right is if all of these plans were implemented, where we would be. So we're coming in view to something much more tolerable. And so there's a little shift here. So today, the upper left, where it says turf, Duxbury High School turf. That's the only turf field we have, synthetic turf. In a future state, at least the one that we're proposing, you would have 6 that would actually be synthetic turfed. You would be able to rent these out in the off-season at a premium. We've run some numbers on that. Soccer fields alone, in a 10-year or 9 or 10-year time horizon, would generate $4.5–5 million in non-Duxbury-based revenue. These fields cost every 10 years, 10 to 11 years, they need to be replaced, right? The services we just did at the high school to the tune of $1 million, $1.2 million. So you have to build in, and we've looked at this, a rental structure that allows you to replace those fields. But all these other surfaces improve as well. So again, instead of 14 new fields, you have 2 new spaces, and both of them are behind Chandler. Everything else is just a renovation. If we can move on. Just getting to a point where we can move to Q&A. I think the big thing that we've witnessed in this and other things too is the difference that an attitude can make. And having a can-do attitude, having yeah, it's a problem. It doesn't mean anybody's guilty of anything. It doesn't mean that anybody did anything wrong. There's nothing like that. It's just saying, yeah, you know what? We are where we are, and we recognize the facts, and this can be done. But it's going to take, you mentioned at the onset, all of the volunteer recognition, and off to the side, I said, yeah, imagine all the other people, right? And I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of volunteers here, and if we put our effort behind something, we can get it done. Town leadership, CPC, schools, rec department, DRC, we all have to collaborate in a shared vision and a solution-finding attitude. The DRC believes that we can accomplish this with self-funding. There are some hurdles. Self-funding meaning private money and corporate support, but there's some hurdles that are in place. There's the flow of money hurdles where certain money has to show up, and if it's on town land, that might have to come through the town, so there's some things there. There's also some basic, I mean, when you raise millions of dollars, you got to recognize donors. How do we recognize donors if we can't put signage up? And I'm not talking about big ostentatious signing, I'm just talking about simple, appropriate Duxbury vibe, good recognition for people who step up and really commit to helping make this type of thing happen. That would require some changes, from what I understand, in some of the bylaws potentially. And we, as much as we would love to help the high school, we're really in this for us and for our youth. And so we are interested in, at least on the Chandler site, if that comes to fruition, being able to control the scheduling and make sure that we're optimizing that for the betterment of the youth programs, because the high school, I haven't gotten into that, but the high school, rightfully so, they take precedent over all other activities on Taylor, which is behind Alden, pool, DCF, Brooks, turf, and the baseball diamonds. So all of those, we're second in line to their needs, which we're fine with, but just to paint the picture of what's left is what we are in control of, in partnership with Steve and Rec. The project, as proposed, we've gone through a couple of phases of estimations, probably somewhere in the $25 to $28 million area, which, if you put it on par with the new DPW building, it's right about there. And I don't know if I've called it the right thing. I don't know if it's the DPW building, but the building that's being built. Thank you. We can move on. How can you help? Work with the DRC on various site plans. Collaborate as we move towards final phase designs. Collaborate with us on a phased approach. We can't do all this. Certainly, you can't do it all in 1 year. We wouldn't want to do it in 1 year. We have programs to run. We have to take a phased approach over 2-3 years, probably, if not 4, to be able to move teams around and move programs around to be able to renovate a site just like East Street Bridge. My house is going to double in traffic because of that, probably. So that's just the nature of having to get things done. So we'll have to do that. Help with town permits and utilities. Work on town sponsorships and long-term recognition opportunities for sponsorships and donors. Collaboration on an approved town policy that would be helpful to our cause. In other words, try to help us remove roadblocks and hurdles, speed bumps. commit to collaboration, and prioritize this issue. We feel it touches more homes than most issues. It taps on a population of people we desperately need in the seat at an annual meeting for a variety of reasons, not just this. And we feel that with good partnership, we can engage more people and get some good things done.
Great.
Thanks for your time. I'm sorry if I went long.
No, you didn't at all. I will start with the board. I know there's a number of people here in the audience, but I wanted to start with the board and see if they have any questions about the presentation. And I'll go left to right.
Already, I'm looking at that last chart, the double chart, current
Yeah.
and future. And
Colored,
I'm
colorful.
looking, you had said that,
Yeah.
yeah, you had said that Keene Street was going to be an all bat and ball, although there's still the Keene Street multi-purpose field is still labeled down there. At 144%, there's been no change there. What is, I don't understand the,
That's a good question. Can you speak to that?
you need to
get up
stand
to
up
the-
at the.
I'm sorry.
The microphone's the only thing.
For our television audience.
And who are you?
Giorgio Bantos, 25 Pine Lake Road, President of Duxbury Youth Soccer, Secretary of DRC. This graph, actually, the additional update to Keene Street was done after the data came back on what the impact would be. So the softball implications in the Keene Street reductions was based before we made that adaptation to add a softball field there to that recreation space. So that's the deviation or the difference that you're not seeing there.
All right, but the multipurpose field is staying?
No, that will be a softball field.
Oh, okay. All right. And I may have drifted off here for a second. I'm sorry. This is being funded by private and corporate donations. It's not being funded by the town?
That's our plan, yep. And so here's where we are in the process, if I may. So we went through the assessment process where we hired Activitas to do this work. We all chipped in to the tune of 40 grand, got the work done, got the plans, multiple iterations, which is why we've got to update that, of the different plans. Next phase is to go into what some of you might be familiar with as a feasibility study. So we've identified a firm that can help us go through a fundraising feasibility study, which will look at corporate support and private support. As you might imagine, we don't have a database to work from a donor perspective, like a lot of university did that. But we do have a file of people we know are interested in youth sports. And we've been running an assessment on that file and are looking at a number of top donor prospects at this point to engage in a conversation about this. So we would need to go through feasibility, both at the corporate and the individual donors level.
Okay. One thing that always interests me, I think I was, many years ago, stood up at town meeting to complain about the lack of porta potties, and they have them down at the beach, and they have them now.
Good job, Steve.
Thank you. Yeah. And you were talking about bathroom facilities when you were talking about Chandler.
Yep.
Excuse me. And I always think that that's a good idea, especially if you've got, young children that are playing and grandparents that are watching and whatnot. I don't understand, where would those be?
Yeah, if you're able to go back to slide, I think it's 14, and I'll tell you when you're there. We'll just show you specifically where those are. Yep, keep going back. Keep going. One more, I think, one more. Oh, another one. One more. There.
Here we go.
So these spaces here, that is a bathroom facility. This is a bathroom facility. This is a reconstituted playground associated with the preschool here.
Can you just pick up the mic and bring it with you so that our television audience can hear what you're
Yes.
saying? Sorry.
No, it's okay. This is a bathroom facility. This is a bathroom facility.
Okay.
This is a relocated new playground for the little guys that are with the preschool here. This is not a road. This is a walkway. That's what that is. And forgive me before for not explaining what these things are. This is actually a outdoor hockey space. This would be turf, synthetic turf, soccer. This would be synthetic turf lacrosse used by Chandler during the school day, or usable by Chandler during the school day. Walking paths around. And I think the thing, if you're getting lost when you're trying to orient yourself here, it's because this field right now is a little bit in this direction. And this entrance is actually down here, comes this way to the roundabout. This needs to be bigger in order to fit and I'll ask Georgie to just be specific in a second, in order to fit the number of fields that are necessary to solve the soccer problem, in addition to this. You can't expand it to where it is. You have to relocate it a little bit and then re-engineer the entrance to the backside of Chandler. That would not impact this playground that's brand new for Laney. So that is untouched, but you move things around a little bit.
Okay.
I'd also like to add, part of the reason we moved the road is even last week, we almost had a child hit by a car. As parents were leaving the baseball game, they were moving at a pretty quick pace of speed. Soccer balls get shot over that fence all the time towards the baseball diamond. It was actually a scary moment. I was there and I witnessed it. But part of the reason we also added 2 bathrooms on opposite sides is that way no child has to go across the parking lot at any point in time to rush to use the bathroom before a game. So safety was put in mind. These are also, you'll see there's plenty of ramps for anyone who needs handicap accessibility so they can use those paved walkways. And we also have a raised pathway that goes through the parking lot, again, as a way to slow down cars from moving through to allow kids to access both sides.
Thank you. My last question was again about Chandler, and you had talked about renting it off-season. When is the off-season? Sorry.
Well, it's a great question. So a large portion of the money that could come from soccer. So it's about 90 hours per week, 360 hours per month in season for soccer that you could rent out, looking at Duxbury Youth Soccer's needs. So the months that it's in season is September, October, November, April, May, and June. However, the shoulder months of August and March are very highly utilized. We didn't even consider those numbers, so there's additional revenue. So the off-season for soccer that wouldn't be used, but people are still using them from a club perspective, is January and February, July and August. But there are a lot of programs out there that do clinics and tournaments that could potentially use those sites should they want them. Amy?
Thanks,
you.
you've
Yeah,
given
thank
us
you.
a lot to think about. Certainly, it seems like there's a need. I think I want to say right off the bat that I hesitate, this board had set their goals for the town based on, we try to limit those to a few. They're, health and safety, for public water, really we thoughtfully did that. So I hesitate to start opening the gates to adding those on our priority, our top priorities. But we obviously, this is a need and, should be on our list to address with you. And I think it's great that you guys are taking the lead. I think for me, a couple of things. I think an environmental impact study is the most important priority for me before I could even consider any, the suitability of these additional fields. And I hope that the environmental impact study will address the use of the turf, because I know that that's been a problem in the past when there's been a problem with, and maybe this has been solved, but
Right.
the recycling, what do you do with the old stuff? What are the health issues of the turf? I'm not sure that has, maybe it hasn't been around long enough to be studied, or maybe those fears have been alleviated. I don't
Right.
know, but I would hope that an environmental impact study would look not only at the impacts to the environment, but the impacts of the turf to the environment and to everyone utilizing those fields.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, there's other considerations too, the water, water consumption versus not water, or, drainage issue. There's lots to be considered when it comes to that. for
Right,
sure.
because I think I heard you say that the only fields that you're recommending for natural turf are the ones at the pool.
The pool, Keene,
Keene would be natural
Yep.
turf? Okay.
yep. It would be turf and pool. So the turf would be DCF Brooks. Of course, we have the high school turf now, and then these.
Okay, and, I try to look at this through an environmental lens, and we know that fertilizers are, key contaminants for any number of things. They add to our nitrogen levels. The nitrogen's going in the bay. We've got, so I do hope that with the impacts of the turf, not just the artificial, but with the new, that we try to come up with some strategies to limit that, the impacts of the fertilizer and the pesticides. And I learned a lot about the scheduling. So it sounds like the scheduling, the school has the first dibs
For the school facilities, yes.
for the school, and then recreation, and then you guys collaborate and figure out the scheduling for the times that it's available.
Essentially, you've got it. I mean, it's a tiered system. The basic way is high school first, youth program second, third-party entities third. And there's lots that fall into that category. But we're in second place there. We get moved around and booted, and not every week, but frequently, and it has a cascading impact on us. But yes, I mean, essentially, you've got
It
it.
seems tricky. I hope
Yeah, it's
that,
tricky.
but it sounds like, everybody's good about it, but there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a
Yeah.
better way to do that than.
And we think
yeah.
we found it, so we can optimize what we have, at least.
Yeah.
And again, thanks to Rainey for, I think, just clearing the path on that and getting the rec and the school to say, yeah, this is good. We'll be in on it. I don't know if you, we're certainly not going to ask all the questions and answer them tonight on the debate about, and it's, not even a debate, it's a conversation about environmental impact. But I'd
love to share. So we did initially look into chemicals of turf, and there's certainly some turfs that do have PFAs, but the ones that we would select do not. And so, I mean, that's an important piece, being a steward of our community and the health of our community, making sure that no chemicals go into the water. But do know, as an example, Duxbury Youth Soccer has grown 150% since 2019. Went from 19 teams to 30-plus teams for travel alone. And so adding 14 more fields, grass fields, would be significantly more chemicals into the environment, our water, which we do not want to do. So what we're suggesting is we would absolutely look at an environmental study, but look at surfaces that, alternatives that don't have those type of chemicals in there that would cause that concern. So we want you to know we have looked into it. I'm no expert, but we will have experts that view that, because we are, stewards of our community as well in regards to that.
I know,
So-
I appreciate that, and I do hope that the experts will look at that. And when I'm talking about an environmental impact study, I'm not just speaking to the type of product that's used. I'm talking, some of these properties could be in Zone 2 wellhead areas, and then that's a sensitive area that may not even allow for this type of surface or the products that would be used on it. So I think we just have to be mindful of where we're proposing these, what zones they're in, what are the limitations of those zones, and really go into it with eyes wide open.
And I will add that we have consulted with like Situate and other local towns that have gone or are going through this exact process. So we certainly will have that consideration.
All right, thanks. I'll yield.
for that question.
You'll yield?
I'll yield.
You'll yield your time to Brian?
Great, thank you.
All right.
First, thanks to all of you who put together the DRC. I think it's terrific that all the organizations are putting their heads together, sharing resources, sharing ideas in terms of how to solve a common problem. You had mentioned the software, or the software platform. I'm curious, how much do you think that's going to help in the short term in terms of, you said optimizing, I think it's a great word. Is that, do you anticipate that's going to help a lot, or is that just going to?
Well, it's
Go
gonna,
ahead.
it's gonna solve our communication challenges around availability. It's a great program. It's $5,000 or $6,000 a year. The youth are willing to pay for it, have everybody else participate in it. It's not going to solve our condition or safety problems. It's not going to do any of that. I think it's going to allow us to, I mean, we're constantly communicating behind this. I don't know how many hours we invest in communicating about availability. He gets bumped from something. He's on the phone with me. I'm trying to figure out what my schedule looks like. Then I see I might bump up with girls lacrosse. So then I'm on the phone with Katie, and it's just a lot of that will be eliminated because we're going to be able to see who's where. And then there's tiered access, so only certain people have keys to turn things, but others have the ability to look. You can get in line in the event that you want something that's not available. There's just some great things to be done there, and it can be used for our indoor facilities, our external outdoor facilities. I think, in talking with Steve and the rec team, I think they're looking at it and thinking, okay, like what are how does this make our life better? The school's looking at it and saying, it might require some double entry of some things. That's a challenge. But ultimately, this is a win because we can see progress, and we're having better conversations with people. Instead of frustrated conversations.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the initiative that you and the other volunteers have put into this. Obviously, there are issues that need to be addressed, and certainly, speaking for myself, and I'm sure the board, look forward to working with you and through Steve and through Rainey in addressing what's feasible, certainly in the short term, but as you mentioned, it's going to be a long road to do all of this. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Mike, I think Steve would like to.
Go ahead, Steve.
Oh,
Then
sorry.
It's fine.
Just real quickly, Steve Studley, Recreation Director. One, just to back up Drew on that software, from a rec department standpoint, where I think that'll be helpful is can kind of cut out the middleman. And what I mean by that is when we issue permits, let's just use Duxbury Youth Baseball, giving them the Tarkland fields. We give a blanket permit to them. We don't need to get into the minutia of Team A's playing Team B, things like that. But with that said, we'll often get a field request for a birthday party, and they'd like to use the baseball field. What then happens is myself or Loretta will reach out to Duxbury Youth Baseball. We know you have the field blanketed for this time, but is it available Sunday from 6 to 8? With this software, Mike, you're looking to have a birthday party. You can just go on this website. You'd have access to that as a citizen and see that there's no game scheduled for that. You can then click, submit your application to us. So I think that streamlines things a little bit on our end. That's just one example. There's others. And I wanted to just go back and clarify one other thing. It's not as chaotic as it appeared to the board. I wanted to clarify. All those youth groups submit field applications through the rec department. We then do our best to divvy out the fields, and then because they work so tremendously together, any conflicts, we typically say, baseball, softball, figure it out, or we'll do it for you. They always figure it out, and it works out very well. And not to knock you down one, Drew, but you're third place, not second. School, town, and then, but keeping score, right? Yes, exactly. But no, I just wanted to clarify that as well.
All right. I wanted to thank you as a group, number one, because, and I'm ripping off something I've heard at your meetings, your time and your volunteerism it's selfless, because your children may not be the ones that actually benefit from this and likely won't. Right. So you're really looking forward to our future generations and the fields that they have. And also from a town perspective, you found a way to utilize private money to do this study that would have taken town meeting approval, would have taken maybe an action, some kind of task force of some sort, maybe taken years. So I'm really appreciative for what your group is doing for this community. So thank you.
For acknowledging that, and appreciate that comment.
Yeah. I'm also a dad and a coach of flag football and softball, and I am on many of these fields, and my kids play, I don't know, dozen sports probably, or maybe not that many, but and I can personally attest to a lot of the things that you're talking about, and just anecdotally for this board, with the rainy seasons we have, just to survive on these fields, like to keep these fields going, if there's a sniff of rain in the air, sports are canceled. I think every practice for flag football and for field hockey got canceled in September last year. Soccer was canceled for all of April. And that's just a snippet of it. I could say from a safety end and an equity end, my kids with softball, I spent Thursday with another coach for an hour getting the field ready for a game for Halifax to come in here. I shoveled water out of the dugout. It had been dry in the sky for 12 to 24 hours, and the field took a lot of work to get it safe and ready for a team to come in. And I heard them saying, "Watch out, there's water," things like that as they were coming in. This is another town coming to our community and noting the conditions of our field that actually our high school players are at. It's no knock, it's use, and it is absolutely what they're talking about. These fields are overused, and this is an absolute need for our community. And to that end, on that can-do piece there, I would like to know, especially with all these different pieces, and this is something I'm learning as a select board member, is how to bring everything together. We have schools, we have town, we have CPA funds, we have a private entity here that wants to get things done. And I would like to know how we can get these things done and get this moving. So that's kind of where I want to leave it. And I'm happy to hear from town manager or anybody else about how we can make this Chandler project happen, how we can get these fields done with private funds, with the municipal laws that we have, and how we can move the ball forward. And if it's not tonight, that's fine. But this was a priority for me. I spoke with our town manager about it, and this is, part and parcel. We had heard you were going to be on the agenda, and we're excited about this. And I think you're hearing from the board that there's, with questions, but with there's at least, we want this to be successful, and I hope we can. And I just want to get those different pieces together here to make that happen, because I think it's possible. And I've seen it. We go to Hanover, they've got beautiful fields and walkways. You go to Plymouth, same thing. Everywhere around us, you go and you see this, and I'd like to make it possible. So I commend your efforts, and I hope we can do this.
You have a partner in our group in that endeavor. If I just in closing, I don't know if there's another.
I have one more
Yeah,
question.
go ahead.
Is that all right?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Before you close?
Yeah.
Can you put up the Chandler Field, Keene Street Fields one? Because it looks like you've actually done a lot of changes there
There are?
that I didn't catch the first time that I looked at it.
It's like 3 baseball fields on one side and 1 softball field on the other.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, so right now it has those 3 fields, not 4, but it also has 2 tennis courts. Is that true? 1 tennis court, basketball court, and a playground. And I use that 'cause it's my neighborhood. So we use those things. And can you just explain to me what you've done here?
Sure. Would you like to, or do you want me to? Well, there's a couple things with.
Uh-oh, you broke it.
Am I still here?
I don't know.
It's broken before. There's tape on it.
I'm kidding.
So yes, you're right. And there's a big change. Well, somewhat of a change to the parking lot. And our understanding, by the way, is that this little box is also town-owned. I believe that's true.
What, oh,
That little section there,
Yeah.
it's town. So yes, so we introduce a bathroom facility here. We eliminate the playground, although there may be space for that still, and the basketball court. There's a restructuring of so this is lost parking space now. And again, if you live there, you know sometimes it can get crazy on this road. So this is adding, I don't forget how many, but adding a number of parking spots. You could actually take it to another level potentially and go this way with that to really maximize. But you're right, you're picking up on a change of functionality here with the introduction of a bathroom. And of course, this whole thing. This is accessible walk path around. That's what that is, as well as in the middle, which is not the case now.
Can you show me where Keene Street is on your map there?
it's right here.
It's
Right, yeah, it's weird, it's not,
You can't really see it.
it looks like it's trees. It's right here.
It's right here, you can see it.
Yeah, it just goes straight through.
And there'd be some type of a buffer. I think you do have some bushes there. There'd be a buffer between the road and the,
There's a guardrail there now.
Currently now.
okay.
There's
Nothing there now, the ticker.
a guardrail.
It's a guardrail.
Yeah.
There today. And then this parking lot like empties here. This is not parking lot. Yeah, and then you could achieve more parking than even this, which is probably necessary by moving in there, but. And this is all Camp Wing.
And it's all, yeah, Camp Wing and public, there's paths, walking paths in there.
Yeah.
So is that 2 tennis courts that I'm looking at?
Those are those are 2 batting cages. Did I say
Oh,
tennis
so you're
courts
taking
before?
the tennis courts out as well?
Correct. There's
There's one
There's one there now and a half a basketball court
and a playground.
and a little playground, yep. But, if,
Like that circle thing. Just like-
And some swings, yeah, some swings. My 2-year-old granddaughter loves it. But, that's, so it's a batting cages.
yep. I
And
mean, that's
the
that's our-
tennis court, so that's gone through rec to take away a tennis court in town?
We haven't really talked about that.
no.
I do think that one,
Yeah, just so everybody knows, the audio on this for recording,
Yeah.
it doesn't pick up what's in the audience. And I'm going to open this up to some questions too, so if you have some questions and comments, you can come up to the podium. So that's totally fine.
Yeah, I think for I think the batting cage is probably important. I think for me, I would rather upgrade that playground and keep a tennis court, but I don't know. It's just something to think about.
I think that's a great insight, and that's, we've at this point looked at it through a number of lenses, but they might all be on the similar ones, so.
Yeah, there's no playground out in that section of
Right.
town, besides that little one that only has a slide.
You should see our hitting, though. We could really use some batting cages.
There are batting cages there now that I think moving this and being able to add a full softball field removes.
so if my memory serves me, this was, there was a proposal to remove this tennis court and change it to a pickleball. And I think that this one we decided to save because there was some neighbors in that area that came out and said, there's very few places to play tennis. This is one of the last places. So I believe, does this ring a bell with anybody else, that this one
might have
was,
been Albany.
is that, this,
Not quite like that, but yes.
yeah.
I think we could
Save that one.
we could figure out how to accomplish all of our goals here.
Yeah, and I also think that it's always a good idea to have some facilities, some playground facilities for siblings of, when a family comes and, one child is playing in a sport, it's always great to have some activity for the other kids.
I was on this field for 3 hours last Friday, and my daughter played for 2.5 of them on the playground.
There you go.
So there you go, yeah.
I don't know where,
Yeah, we usually offer questions from the audience and any comments.
Okay.
If it gets, I'm not going to cut anybody off, but I'd like you to keep it somewhat tight, and if someone else asks your question, understand that we've heard it, and we've answered it. And I'll leave it at that. But I just noting that because we do have other things on the agenda. So if anybody has any questions or comments, you're welcome to come up. Sure.
Holly Morris, 145 Abrams Hill. Couple of questions. Have you thought about doing this in stages at all? And if so, what is your priority?
Yes, for sure. We have. The reality is we have to do this in stages. There are a couple of leading first phases proposed at this point. One is a good chunk of the Chandler project, but not the 2 lacrosse fields in the back. So moving Coppins, moving the access point, and then the turf space behind the diamond, but not the 2 rectangular combined fields immediately behind Chandler. We really need that, but we don't need it as badly as soccer does. And so we would prioritize that, and then the turfing of Brooks and DCF on the high school property. I don't know the extent to which site work has been done there, but my understanding is that lots of the site work was done in preparing those two. It's really one flat site for synthetic. And I think I've heard 17 different stories as to why that didn't happen. But it's pretty close to being ready to go from what I gather. Could be wrong about that.
And one of the other questions I have is, it would probably, if Situate is going through this process right now, at least if somebody is in communication with Situate about what they are discovering and perhaps giving us some
In terms of
pointers.
what part of this?
Well, with regards to the environmental or any other study that they may be doing so that they can move forward, they seem
Oh,
to
they
be.
did it. They're done.
They're done?
Yeah, it
Okay,
finished 2
so
years
that-
ago.
It would be interesting to at least get a hold of that study and review. The other thing, as far as advertising, I just hope there's nothing like DraftKings or something like that. I'm getting a little sick of seeing it in every
Amen.
sport I'm watching. And again, a plug for CPC. Certainly, CPC money is available for recreational purposes. We cannot build. We could do the site work for a turf field. We cannot pay for the turf material. And certainly we can do playgrounds, tennis courts, pickleball courts, all of those things. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Holly's been great. She reached out to me recently and said, is there anything that you might have ready to go? And honestly, the answer is no at that time. But believe me, when she asks the next time, the answer will be different. Yeah. Just a quick comment. This would be how I would wrap it up. Maybe there's other comments, but one of the things that's happening in towns is that we're losing the integrity of our athletic programs, and we're losing them at the cost of club programs. And we need to do everything we possibly can to maintain the integrity of our youth sports programs that are in town. Different ones of us are in different phases of this reality and this aggressiveness that is pulling our kids out of this town. And it's pulling them out of this town to play their sports for youth, starting in kindergarten. And it's pulling them out of our high school when it comes time to go to to leave their grade school and go on to a high school. We're losing on a pretty reliable basis, and I know we always have to some degree. But it certainly feels, based on some of us who have been involved for a long time, like the trend is increasing. And I don't think we want that. And I'm not saying facilities solve the problem, but believe me, facilities don't help when they're not good. There's a lot of other stuff that needs to happen to be able to get at this issue, and we're not the only ones, but we need to step up faster than slower and figure out how to do it. And this topic is a big part of that. And it's where I think we get our energy, knowing that our kids, to your point, Mike, are not going to be playing ball on these fields. That's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because of what I just said, maintaining the integrity of our athletic programs in town where friendships are built and families meet each other. And that's what we need to be investing in. If we're investing millions of dollars in other things, we should be investing millions of dollars in the integrity of those baseline underpinnings of a community. So
Thank you.
I wanted to get that out there before I had more questions, but
Yeah, there's another, I think there's a woman behind you that would
Okay.
like to speak. I'll let her introduce herself.
Kathy Cross, Baby Road. I want to thank everyone. This is a great discussion, and sports is a huge part of growing up. But I just have a question. It seems like you've done a lot of work. Is there a website? Are these reports available so we can get some more information? Yeah.
yes. It's not very extensive, but it's there, and we have a number of pieces and reports up there.
What's the website?
It's like asking me what my name is. I should know that. What is it? Yeah, I think it's the whole thing. Duxbury Recreation Collaborative.org.
Great. All right,
I
any other?
have a couple suggestions.
Great.
With regard to the Activist work, what did they do in Lexington?
I don't know exactly what they've done in these different locations.
Okay, because of the list you gave us, only 2 are municipal, and I know what they did in Situate. And
Yeah.
what I would recommend that you do is talk to Situate and ask how they funded it. Because I'd be interested to know how they came up with the money to do what they did, because their work over there was extensive.
My
And also
understanding
to-
is that was town funded. I don't know what.
May have been.
Through what path, I'm not sure.
Probably a debt exclusion.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if it was anything but. But I also know that they redid their turf on the football field, and then they built the baseball field as well, and then the other ancillary field too. And I would also ask them if they did an environmental study. I'd be surprised if they did. It would-
If they did,
Yeah. I would be very surprised. Any more than they did an environmental study when they used CPC funds to make the Driftway bike path. I'd be surprised.
We'll ask.
It'd be fun to find out. It's good that you're looking at it as a phased approach. This is $100 million all day long. Everything all in. The Chandler project, I would be surprised if it came in under 20, simply because of the site work involved when you start laying pavement. I mean, I remember we had an estimate just to pave Tarkiln 4 years ago was $80,000, and the price of petroleum's gone way up. I'm a fan of all of this. You know that. I like the advertising idea. I think it's great. I think there's a correct way to do it, which does involve design review guidelines. I think there's all kinds of interesting things that could happen. But those are just a couple things right off the top of my head that I think would be beneficial to you, for you to find out.
Those numbers are coming from Activitas. We need to take it to another level of specificity,
'cause
particularly as we drill in on the phased. So then you get like an annualized cost, phased in approach. We really understand what's needed when.
Yeah, because with the exception of those 2 towns, all of their others were done by endowments
Yeah,
and gifts, big gifts. So,
big.
but that's not to say it's bad. It's good.
Right.
If you got somebody lined up to give the right checks, that's awesome.
Right.
Rainey, how
But
would,
the town needs to accept the gift, and in terms of permitting, that's a whole other thing, because you need to get permission from the school department to do anything at Chandler, and that would require a town meeting vote, et cetera, a whole bunch of things.
Yep. We had a meeting where we discussed the idea
All
of,
that.
of the town gifting land to the nonprofit. It avoids, just like we've been able to get the study done without having to jump through all those hoops, we were able to do it. There's a lot of upsides to that as well, but I understand that there's always some barriers and limitations. I don't think, in looking at the law, we don't think that any of them are prohibitive, but I think we could. I think there's different ways of getting at this. Certainly, the most cost-effective way would be able to do as much as possible privately and on private land, if at all possible, because we avoid all kinds of bidding issues and so forth. So, but I think there's no one answer to any of this stuff. I don't think. I think there's looking at each site is probably a different solution from a financial perspective and an ownership and management perspective.
so the rehabbing of current fields, has there been any discussion about how funding would be for that? Or how,
Our vision would still be private funding, but we're not talking about ownership, land
Right.
change, ownership change, so it'd have to flow through.
How does that work,
Yeah.
Rainey?
The town would be accepting a gift, and it would go to the general fund.
Okay. And then we'd have to do it, essentially. Would that have to be a town meeting, or?
I'd have to look at the specific mechanics and knowing what the gift was targeted for, and if the town could accept it. There's a whole host of issues.
Is it through town meeting and everything?
That's what I'd have to look into.
Okay. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. We had talked about the idea, I ran through a series of proposals when we met. The gift, the town couldn't gift it because the anti-aid amendment in the Constitution prohibits it. We can't give property away to anybody. It doesn't work that way. There's a whole procurement process. If the town decided that it wanted to develop the fields, it would have to go out to bid, and it would be the high bidder that would win.
We feel as though we've uncovered some stuff that suggested that, and may not be the case necessarily. It's
Okay.
worth review, but.
I'm just, and that's why I wanted to focus on the other piece
I looked
here.
at gifting, purchasing, leasing,
So say-
licensure, the bidding process, the constitutional aspect of it.
And the-
We've covered all this.
And the
in several
Keene, but I
meetings.
mean, just to pick one of these out, say it was Keene, and they wanted to do some work there, and they wanted to use some private funding. Have you talked about that piece of it? Like,
Because
how
that
would
hasn't been suggested yet.
I know it's not been suggested. Okay.
I will tell you, though, Keene is the toughest spot in terms of water of all of them. We've drilled 6 wells there, 3 in the 11 years I've been here. They all came up dry, and we went over 600 feet in each one of them. So that's a tough place to find water, believe it or not.
Yeah, we've got a lot, well, it's nice and wet on the right side, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I know, but when that number 2 field out back, it's like the Gobi Desert. Yeah.
Can I make a comment on the advertising part of this? I know that there'd be, somebody was generous enough to be a big donor in this, which, we really hope, and I think that would be greatly appreciated. I think that there are ways, tasteful ways, that you can honor those donors that don't mean hanging a sign. And, the town does have bylaws against signs, but, for other big fundraising things, they've done, bricks or, I mean, there's a whole variety of, I think, very tasteful ways that you could honor a donor that doesn't have to be a sign or require a big change in our bylaws.
I agree with the first aspect in that it can be certainly tasteful and appropriate. I actually raised money, once upon a time, raised money for large multi-million-dollar athletic facilities in colleges for a living, and have dealt with these questions a lot. And I 100% agree that there are good ways and bad ways, and those that are consistent with the town energy and those that aren't. And I mean, I think we're all interested in doing it the way that it would be most tasteful and appropriate, for the donor. But donors don't really, it's the sponsors, the corporate sponsors.
Oh, yeah.
They're the ones that they're like, well, I want the big, but donors tend not to. They tend to want to be subtle about their recognition.
Thank you very much. I know there's a lot of folks in the audience here from the various sports teams and elsewhere, and I appreciate everybody and CPA for also assisting as well. So thank you very much, and Rec. I think
you.
we can move on to the next item. Thank you very
You've
much.
given us a lot of time. Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. We have a discussion and vote regarding a declaration of surplus items for the following departments: the DPW department and the Recreation Department / beach ops.
Want me to cover it?
Yes, please.
Jim Savonin, the manager of Lands and Natural Resources, is requesting that the board declare as surplus the following items: a 72-inch John Deere 3-point hitch mower deck, an 8-foot 3-point hitch York rake, 12 recycle barrels with lids 32 inches high and 21 by 21 inches square, and a 2011 Peterbilt bucket truck. This vehicle has come to the end of its useful life with the town, and we've already replaced it. The vehicle will be sold at auction for a greater value than that of the trade-in.
Excellent.
How do you know that? Well, you know what your
out-
trade-in
you go
value,
out
but
here.
you don't, but if it's going to auction, it's kind of a,
You just, eBay is the, I mean, that's not.
You set a minimum, or you set a,
This isn't necessarily going on eBay. This will probably go out on something called Munibid, where you can actually see what they're selling for.
Okay.
eBay has had that function for years. You know, what are these items selling for? And you can actually see what they go for.
that's helpful.
It is very.
Mr. Chairman, I note that in our materials, there are photographs of the equipment, and I'm no expert, but it certainly looks like we've squeezed every bit of life out of the equipment that's being set up for divestment here. So thank you to the departments for using these things until they're like literally getting dragged into the ground.
And I hope they're going to recycle the
Yeah, they are,
recycle
yeah.
barrels.
Yeah, our trash is someone else's treasure.
Right.
Right? That's the mall.
Right.
Motto as well.
I hope they recycle the recycle barrels. Those actually look pretty good.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to declare as surplus the following: a 72-inch John Deere 3-point hitch mower deck, an 8-foot 3-point hitch York rake, 12 recycle barrels with lids 32-inch high, 21 by 21 square, a 2011 Peterbilt bucket truck, VIN number 2NP3HN83BM125867, in order to allow these items to be disposed of, sold, auctioned, or donated, all in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30B, and the town's rules and regulations, with proceeds to go into the general fund.
Second. Oh, sorry. Cindy can second.
Cindy seconded. And any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now we have some folks here from the Lions Club.
One more. We have one more.
Oh,
The surplus items in the Recreation Department, they're requesting the board declare as surplus the following item: a 2010 Chevy Tahoe. A vehicle has come to the end of its useful life with the town. There's a suggested motion for your consideration below.
Now, I see Steve's here, and not to put him on the spot, but I believe this is the same vehicle that I saw you starting with jumper cables on a regular basis.
If the jumper cables were the least of the
Yeah.
concerns, we'd probably keep it. The mechanics basically came to the rec office and said, you can't have this on the road anymore, so there's really not much debate in it.
Yeah, it was a pretty sad.
Old
Yeah.
stop sign for a floorboard. Yeah, it was.
Okay, yep.
Its time is,
That's a vehicle I remember seeing in your parking lot.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
Yes, yes.
I think-
In that case, I'm happy to, I would be delighted to make a motion.
yes, I
here.
think this is,
I
Appreciate
move
it.
to declare as surplus the following: a 2010 Chevrolet Tahoe, VIN number 1GNUKAE08AR233672, in order to allow this item to be disposed of, sold, auctioned, or donated, all in accordance with General Law, Chapter 30B, and in accordance with the town's rules and regulations, with the proceeds to go to the general fund.
Second.
any discussion?
Riddance.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for being so thrifty. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Now, we have our friends here from the Lions Club who would like to discuss, and we might have a vote regarding a signage request.
I'm Peter Van Slyke, 29 Oak Street. I'm representing the Duxbury Lions Club. We started months ago trying to place signs on the way into town, articulating that there was a Duxbury Lions Club and how people in town and from out of town could contact us and potentially join us, because we're always looking for new members and attend our meetings. This is fairly consistent with what Rotary has done in the past, the Masons have done in the past. There was not a clear-cut path. We reached out to the DPW. We spoke to engineering, and the decision was deferred to the selectman's office. The Lions Club is a relatively small organization. They're a service organization that supports people in the community and throughout the world. We run the Lions Share Food Pantry. We donate to a number of different causes and scholarships within the town, and we're just simply trying to make people aware of our presence and hopefully solicit other volunteers to help us. Lions Club is the largest international service organization. They are typically the first boots on the ground on an emergency with funding to help bridge people through it. We think it's important. We think Duxbury is a town that's loaded with benevolent people, and we would like to just create an awareness within town so that people know that we have a presence. Initially, we purchased 2 signs. Our thought was that we would locate them somewhere at the entrance at exit 20 on Route 3A on Tremont Street, and at exit 22 on Route 14 or Congress Street. That's where other organizations have placed it. Unfortunately, we're aware that sign pollution is an issue, particularly at Route 3A. There are quite a few signs down there now, and they're in various states of disrepair. But that's where the traffic flow is, unfortunately. We're not committed to a presence right there. We would be very happy with a location down by Tremont and Park Street, where there's a town park. There's not very much signage down there. There's a long stretch up at exit 22 where there is conservation land, I believe it is, where it could be strategically placed where it's not littered with a bunch of other signs. But we're not sure of the path. We're not sure of the easement restrictions. We're not sure of town requirements or state requirements, because some of these are state roads with respect to signage placement. So we're on a journey. You're the next stop on the journey. We're seeking advice, permission, consult as to how to best move forward to facilitate this. We think it certainly benefits the Lions Club. We hope it benefits the town. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Well, you know what, as tradition here, I'm going to defer to my board members first, but I'll go right to left on this. Does anybody have any questions or comments first?
Not to put him on the spot, but I'd be curious to hear from Rainey.
Yeah,
about this.
I do have some questions about what we're approving, this, like which bylaw, and I can go unless somebody else has questions, but that was my question too, is we've approved sign requests in the past pursuant to that bylaw that says we have that authority on a temporary basis for 30 days. I think it was, or 60 days. I forgot which one it was.
30.
Is that what this is
No,
pursuant to?
this is a permanent one. This is going to be like the right to farm signs when you come into town.
Okay. So this is a permanent sign? Okay.
Yep.
And that's a select board?
We thought it was best here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, in that case, if we're opening it up to, questions or what we're thinking about it, I think it's entirely appropriate for the Lions to have a sign. Certainly the Masons do, and it's not unusual in any town in New England.
No, it's fairly common.
Sure,
Yeah.
when you come in, usually through the main road of
Correct.
lots of communities in New England, you see a sign, welcome to, Duxbury. Here are the following organizations that are active here in town.
Right.
Masons just beat you to the punch, I guess, in terms of having a sign up. My question, I guess, and I don't know about the state road issue, that's a good point, but I wonder, because also we'd have to extend this opportunity to Rotary as well and any other organizations that are active in town, if there's an opportunity to co-locate. I've seen in different towns, you'll have one post that has maybe 3 or 4 service organizations
On the
in
same
town.
post,
Yeah.
right.
Instead of having, 4 signs in a row, or logistically, I think is more of the issue. Conceptually, I think it's entirely appropriate, especially the great work that the Lions do, and I'm very familiar with the work that you do on the South Shore. I know the Quincy chapter, for example, is
Yeah.
very active and you're always collecting eyeglasses, and you're big into eye research. So I think the fact that we are active in town, or that I'm not part of the organization, but the organization is active in town, that folks should know that it's here and how you contact them, just like we do with Masons.
Well, I think on Congress Street, and one of them may even be on attached to a utility pole. So it just appears as if there's not a consistent mechanism to move forward. We don't necessarily have any reason not to co-own a signpost with Rotary or Masons or any one of those organizations, but we're looking for some direction.
What you could always do is approve this one, and if anybody comes in, make sure that they're required to co-locate. You might have one of those, sign arrays where you see 5 or 6 of them all in one cluster.
Right, that's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, that works. Why not?
Amy?
There is no dispute. I mean, the Masons and the Lions and these organizations, the Rotary Club, you guys do great work. My concern, and I think I've been pretty consistent in my dislike of signs in general. I just have to believe that there's a better way to make folks know that you're in town and of the great things that you do. I do think that, I think it was your own words that these areas tend to be littered with signs, and that's how it tends to start to look, is that, they're in various stages of disrepair. Also, that they tend to be some of our most dangerous areas in town that you really don't want to encourage people to be trying to write down a telephone number on a sign as they drive by. So I am also concerned that, the floodgates open, and again, it is absolutely not my position here to criticize or to not support the Lions in any way. It's my
We understand. We
my
understand
dislike
that,
of signs that,
but we also feel as if signs announcing that we're Tree City and that we're farm friendly and all these other signage which are generic, and you're not writing down a phone number, I would agree, but they are in the same areas and they're allowed.
yeah, I agree.
It's
And I
simply equal representation.
I totally understand your position, but I wasn't asked to approve those signs. So I can say that, so thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so, a quick question. At the church on, I think it's still Summer Street there,
Yeah,
right?
St. Peter's.
And is there a sign there? There is. I'm just trying to think of what it says.
That's where the food
The food
pantry is
pantry is,
located. So that's specific to the food pantry. That just says Lions Share Food Pantry and the hours of operation.
Okay, so it doesn't have Lions Club and a website or,
I believe it does have the Lions International logo on it.
okay.
But that's it. We do not meet there. That's,
No, I know. Okay, so then my other question is, again, I mean, I do agree with equal representation, and I see no reason for you all not to have signs at, locations that will be decided upon. I don't think that we have that before us tonight, because what we have before us tonight is to do one between Bennett's and Route 3 on 3A at that exit down there. And the other is on Lincoln Franklin Streets coming from Marshfield.
Down by the country club, Cindy.
Yeah, and so is that, you're not talking then about exit 22? Is that 22? Is that where Route 14 is?
It's only known as 11.
Yeah.
I'm still, I will never get
I'll
those
never get
straight.
those.
So not the Rotary at exit 11? Oh, okay.
I think my preference would be to get the main interchanges off Route 3, but.
Oh, all right, so
But
that's not
there are
what,
several avenues into town. Ideally, you would have one at each entrance to the town, but
that's what I'm saying.
we're not
Okay, so
We're not
that's,
funded well enough to put them everywhere.
sure. So that's, I'm just not confused, but I'm just thinking that we don't really have that in our motion. I mean, we could change it for sure, or, excuse me, do something else, but I think part of it is trying to figure out where exactly they're going to go, and that does not really seem to be before us.
Right. So, number one, I want to thank you for what your organization does. I'm always,
appreciate
particularly the food pantry, I always, it surprises me, and it's eye-opening to hear about the number of families that require free lunches and require tuition help with when the kindergarten was for pay. So I appreciate what your organization does for
We
this community.
service consistently over 100 families a month.
All right. So I'm very grateful for that. And just to dovetail, and I'll, if Mr. Glennon wants to say anything more, he can. I support your having a sign just as other organizations have. What I'd like to see from our town, and maybe either from Highway Safety or DPW, is to come up with something along the lines of like these collective signs so we can clean up these spaces, because we have approved, we heard, the Purple Heart
Yep, that was the
town.
only
We
one
have,
we've done.
there's been other things that we've approved, and some that have been there probably either unapproved or have been there for decades. And, it would look nice to have a nice, as you enter, sign that's safe. Because here we're talking about over by Bennett's, and we've also heard from members of the community about how dangerous that intersection is.
I
And
live
we're
in that
talking-
neighborhood, yeah.
And we're spending, well, not we are, but there's been some money spent to improve the safety of that area.
I don't
So
think any of us disagree with Amy's
that's not a you
thoughts
problem.
regarding signage also, but
Right.
it's, nor do we want people looking at their phones, looking up a website saying, I wonder if there's a Lions Club in Duxbury either. It's a matter of what's a reasonable solution. For anyone that's driven into Cedarville, they have a nice, it almost looks like a guardrail on a median that has several of these, with welcome to Cedarville, and it has several of these types of signs on it. Perhaps roundabouts is an appropriate location for this. I don't know.
Yeah. And I don't know the answer to
But
that either.
what occurred, what became obvious to us was that there isn't a system to go through to review these and place them. And it wasn't our intent to create policy. It's just to do it correctly and properly.
We appreciate that.
Yeah. Brian, did you want to add anything else?
Just to reemphasize the co-location, I think we're all supportive, certainly, of the organization, and it's the proliferation of signs, I think, is all top of mind, and I'm sure you agree. So if there's a way to do it that's safe, to Mike's point, and aesthetic, to Amy's point, that would be supportive. I wonder if we can approach this in sort of two steps, and Mike, I agree with you. I think this should go to Highway Safety for their input. And I think I see Paul sitting around the corner, not to put him on the spot, but this might be coming your way. I wonder if we can, in the short term, settle upon maybe some temporary co-location. I don't know if the Masons own that sign, for example, on West Street, that you could just say, hey, can I stick this sign with it? And in the meantime, perhaps we could put together some sort of policy that would allow all the signs around town to sort of get consolidated in a way that we think is appropriate. And then that way, that would give, to your point, a roadmap for others who are interested, such as Rotary or who knows, other organizations that might come into town at some point, and a way for us to manage because I can't imagine we'll want a whole bunch of like QR codes or something around town with,
No.
with people with phones. It's more to create an awareness.
Right.
Right? So, oh, I saw that sign about lions, I should probably look that up. I see they're in Duxbury. So I know we're not looking to provide all contact information.
No, and I think, to Amy's point, I think there is a fairly high level of awareness of these organizational logos, so that if somebody comes into town and they see a Lions International logo or a Rotary logo, it simply says to them, yes, there's a presence here. Then they can take the next step and search it out. Some of these, in the past, many of these signs have listed meeting locations and times. We've chosen a different path because we think a website is a more communicative tool. It allows updating fairly seamlessly. And so we thought we would just put our logo, our website location, so that people say there's a Lions Club. I can learn more by going to this website rather than having to write down phone numbers and locations. But it's still a sign, you know?
Does the board have any thoughts on a motion for tonight as a first step here? Because I think I'm hearing that we might also want to take a look at.
Yeah, and get some input from traffic safety. Could we table it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Bronya, not to put you on the spot, do you have any thoughts on this? And if you don't, just wave me off. Brogna.
Mark, can I have that signing book?
The blue book.
Of course. Thank you for being here and being
Paul
put on the
Broadner,
spot.
90 Humphreys Lane. Am I representing Highway Safety or Rotary Club or the Friends of the Council, which I'm here for officially?
Highway safety, we'll spin the wheel.
Well, highway safety.
Highway Safety, any signage, we could look at our next meeting, the first Thursday in June.
Okay.
We have a few things on the agenda that are coming off, a couple new things coming on, so that's always an item, and then we can discuss with the members of the club what we in Rotary Club have done over the last many, many years with our signage, primarily at exit 10, exit 10/20. The roundabout on Lincoln Street in 14, there's a small Rotary Club sign there. We could do that one. Put two signs on one post there. And then over the years, we had one coming in from Marshfield on 3A, just on this side of the town line where the bogs are. But that doesn't get as much traffic as some of the other locations, but that's where the signs are. But really, we'll put you on the agenda for the Thursday afternoon, first Thursday in June, and it should work out fine. Okay.
Okay. Would that work for the board as far as maybe a first step is to maybe come towards a unified sign type thing?
Yeah, but, and that I think, if you could add that to your agenda with, it's not just one sign, but kind of think about maybe cleaning them up and,
And over the last 20, 25 years or so, the organizations would acquire or purchase their own signs, and then the Public Works Department would install them on one of the normal posts and maintain it from there. So, $100 sign, and then the town would take care of it kind of in perpetuity, so.
And would this be something we could pull Sheila and or somebody in as far as, since they would be voluntold on the signage end of it?
Yeah, in terms of a sign, I mean, we just put them up and that's it, we leave them there. There's no maintenance, really.
Okay, I meant as far as putting more on one thing or.
Oh, yeah, do you mind talking to her about it? Through the Highway Safety Committee, doesn't she usually attend those meetings?
Me? No.
No, I'm asking Paul.
So who,
Does the DPW
Sheila.
director attend the highway safety meetings?
that's correct, she does.
Yeah, so you can ask her.
Okay, great.
Right.
Awesome.
In all honesty, we will discuss the potential for Sign City. There used to be 7 or 8 signs at exit 20. We asked the state very respectfully the last 4 to 6 months to remove a couple, which they did. The most important sign, the 35-mile-an-hour sign as you come in easterly off the off-ramp, was the one that was violated the most. Okay, so they finally replaced that with one that wasn't as faded. It's not perfect, but it's better. But we did remove 2 or 3 signs because you just couldn't see everything as you're coming through. And as we all know, living on that corner of town, people don't do 35 when they're coming into Duxbury. We know that. Okay? So that's why in some cases, the roundabout on Lincoln Street and 14, they do have to slow down, so that's, a viable location. And there's one or two other spots that we can talk about at the highway meeting next month.
Maybe we
Be more than
could,
happy to entertain it and do it in the town's best interest.
yeah, and we'd love a recommendation.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So would you like a motion to refer this to highway safety? Or do you want to just
I don't think we
do it?
need to.
Okay.
I don't think
All
that
right,
is good.
so let's continue it.
All right, so thank you very much.
for your time.
Thank
All right,
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks,
Not
Paul.
voting, yep.
Yeah.
All right, discussion and vote on a proclamation in support of National Safe Boating Week. I have that, I believe.
You
Yep,
do.
Mr. Chairman, it's in your packet. It's pretty straightforward. It's a proclamation declaring, let's see,
I will do it if you'd like.
May 18th through the 24th is National Safe Boating Week.
All right.
And that's it. Oh, do you need it?
I have it, I
Okay,
believe.
good.
So, I have a proclamation here. Whereas, on average, 700 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the U.S. Nearly 70% of these are fatalities caused by drowning. Whereas, the vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment, and not by boat, equipment, or environmental factors. Whereas, a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today had they worn their life jackets. And whereas, modern life jackets are more comfortable, more attractive, and more wearable than styles of years past and deserve a fresh look by today's boating public. Now, therefore, be it resolved that on this 13th day of May 2024, the town of Duxbury, through the Select Board, does hereby sign this proclamation in support of the goals of the North American Safe Boating Campaign and proclaim that May 18th through the 24th, 2024, as National Safe Boating Week and the start of the year-round effort to promote safe boating. In witness thereof, the Select Board urges all boaters to always wear a life jacket, take a boating safety course, and to schedule a vessel safety check, and to learn and practice safe boating habits.
I don't have a motion here, but I would move to endorse the proclamation as read.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right.
Be safe.
Be safe. We have a town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick updates for you. First is the Duxbury Beach. Currently, there are 37 piping plover nests on Duxbury Beach. DBR estimates that there are at least 40 pairs currently on the beach. Many of these pairs are still setting up territories, and more piping plovers are likely to arrive within the next few weeks. We expect to find more nests in the coming days and weeks. Last year, by May 13th, there were 32 nests out of a total of 46 pairs that ended up nesting. Lease terns continue to arrive throughout last week, and they've been seen flying up and down the beach. Recreational activity south of the Powder Point Bridge is open. All pullouts are currently open. Crossover 1 and Crossover 3 are open. Crossover 2 is currently closed, but is expected to reopen later this week. Dogs are allowed at the beach. Currently, leash dogs are allowed in parking lots, on roadways, bayside south of Powder Point Bridge, and Oceanside, bayside south of the North Poles. Daily, the DBR field staff consistently report numerous dogs off leash and in the area where dogs are not allowed north of the bridge. So if you've got a dog, please keep it on a leash. Last summer, DBR implemented a new, less restrictive access area around the unfledged piping plover chicks called sensitive wildlife areas, and those areas replaced the restricted areas that were used in the past. Sensitive wildlife areas were successful, increasing access to areas that would have otherwise been closed, and it will be implemented in late May when the nest begins to hatch. And what does that mean? That means that beachgoers are allowed to set up beach blankets. The area is delineated by large blue signs with white lettering. They're established around unfledged piping plover chick areas, and certain activities are not allowed, including dogs, bikes, vehicles, kites, and other beach sports adversely impacting chicks. The restricted areas were those where no activities were allowed within the fencing, and they were delineated by large red signs. As a reminder, the town of Duxbury manages beachgoer and vehicle access on Duxbury Beach, and as such makes the decisions surrounding crossover and parking lot closures on opening and closing times in consultation with DVR. The town and DVR work together to investigate and assess all options to maximize beachgoer access, and the town makes a decision on how to implement the available options based on the nesting data that DVR provides to ensure Duxbury Beach is compliant with state and federal law. Say that in one breath.
You did.
But what did you say? Could you say that again?
I printed it off so you can bring it home with you, Cindy. Quick update on the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board of Appeals would like to add 1 or 2 associate member seats, not seats, people on seats. Under the Duxbury zoning bylaws, the Select Board can appoint at least 2 associate members annually. And if anyone is interested in becoming an associate member, you are please encouraged to fill out a talent bank form, which can be found on the town's website under the Forms and Documents tab. And please submit your completed talent bank form to the Select Board office by Friday, May 31st to be considered. And after that, we will process it and make sure everybody sees what they need to see. And last week, I had already told you about the road closures on East Street, which is going to actually begin right around the time school ends, first or second week in June. And then also there's work being done on Franklin Street, but that will not close Franklin Street as a result. But there will be delays up on Route 3 as a result. Thank you. Yeah.
Start with the ZBA. This came up with the Board of Health as well. And I asked Michelle and Nancy to provide us with it, but in 2021, we came up with a policy about appointing members.
Yeah.
That included not only the talent bank end of it, but at the meeting, our liaisons there voting. In advance of that meeting, the questions for those candidates have to be submitted to HR for approval.
Yep.
And
Forgotten
at that meeting, our Select Board liaisons there, and then it comes back to this board for commissions, not for committees. These are for like CBA and Board of Health and our Conservation Commission. There were specific guidelines for those.
Oh, for regulatory versus non-regulatory?
Correct.
Yeah,
So-
it's bifurcated, yeah.
If that can be passed along, that would be great.
Yep,
for that.
no problem.
The other end of things, with access, one of the options that was, as far as the permit, was escorting. Where are we with the escorting protocols and plans?
I don't know, I'd have to ask Steve.
Okay, because I thought that was supposed to be helpful in some of these I call them elbow seasons, at the edges of the closures.
It was my understanding it was used toward the end of the season, but I can verify that.
Okay. And the other end of that is, actually, I'll save my other question because I did hear that 2 is opening at the end of the week, you said? Okay. Fair enough. I have no more questions about closures at this point.
Could I ask a question about the town manager's report? So the plovers that you talked about, Randy, there's 37, did you say 37 or 32?
37 nests.
37 nests.
Right
and
now.
And last year at this time, same
32.
time, there was, so
32.
we're pretty much on schedule,
We're ahead.
right? So
We've got bigger numbers now than we did last year.
bigger numbers, but if the weather stays good and the nests don't get disturbed, I mean, I think the goal at this point is to do the one and done, is to.
In and out. Yep.
In and out. So, if everybody behaves and the
Mother Nature.
and Mother Nature behaves, hopefully, best case scenario is that they have the chicks hatch, they fledge, they run around for a little while, and they go bye-bye.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's been some significant joint effort by DVR and Recreation and Save Duxbury Beach to do deterrence out on the second crossover. And
That was the pallet thing, right?
correct. And they didn't nest on the pallets, as far as I know.
They didn't. Okay, so are those pallets still out there? Or
They remain
They'll be there all season,
all season.
Oh, okay.
until
So
they're gone, until the birds are gone.
So what do people go, if you're allowed to go out to the beach, then you stay, then you.
they're up by the dunes.
Okay.
But and also I think, I don't know, actually. I'm not going to ask because it's probably private information about where the nests are, but, obviously,
We don't divulge that.
We don't divulge that information, but, it's a big beach.
There's
and they're
there's
spread out.
37 of them, so they're
Yeah,
pretty,
30,
there's
it's a
quite a few
7-mile
of them.
beach, so, they're out there.
Okay, then my other question is about water testing. It feels like, and I don't know, but it seems like we should be about due for a quarterly test result for the wells. Yeah. It's been a while. So if we could find out about that, that would be helpful. Thank you.
That's great.
That's it.
All right. Any other questions or comments for the town manager report? All right. Thank you very much, Rainey.
No problem. Thank you.
We have a one-day liquor license request from the Friends of the Council on Aging.
Is
Go
Mr.
right
Brogna
ahead.
here for this?
That's why you're here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Rogner, 90 Humphreys Lane, President of the Friends of the Council on Aging. You have before you an application for a one-day license for beer and wine to support Mrs. Moore's request for a volunteer appreciation event on Thursday afternoon, the 20th of June. I think it's from 4 to 7, whatever it is on the application. And it's a little bit of a different event. She's going to try it this year, that in the past they've had a volunteers appreciation luncheon, but because of this year and the time of the year and the good weather and everything and some of the outdoor facilities at the Council on Aging, she wants to try this for 2 to 3 hours and use the volunteers that work at the facility, if you will, and in conjunction with the support services from her staff, and basically serve the beer and wine for that period of time, and obviously set up and clean up everything in due course. So that's the application before you. We have the certificate of insurance, tips with the date of birth of the tipster person for the first time, I think, in years. We've done that with with Jeannie White and everything, so that should work. And again, it's the standard 100, 110 people, that a little bit shorter capacity there at the Ellison Room. So I'll be more than happy to address any questions, but it looks good, good time of the year, and hopefully the weather's decent for that late afternoon activity. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have the pleasure of being this board's liaison to the Council on Aging, and I've seen how much the Friends contribute to the operation of that tremendous resource we have in town, monetarily, but in terms of volunteers as well. And I think it's terrific that the Council on Aging, or the Friends, continues to recognize the volunteers through this event. And I'd just like to take this opportunity, Paul, to thank you and your organization for all the tremendous work you do for the Council on Aging. And it's no small matter that through the work and the donations that you provide, you're saving the town significant resources that would otherwise have to be found somewhere in our budget. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'll second that. And Paul, if I could ask you to come up for a second. You also, the volunteers also assist with the half marathon, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Joanne caught me at the committee volunteer appreciation and noted that it was about $30,000 that was raised through that half marathon.
Of all the half marathons, it's been the best to date, growing exponentially every year. So 2 weeks before the Boston Marathon,
Yeah.
so I think it was March 31st of this year, and the weather was cool but nice, and outside of a couple of minor traffic delays in town, it worked out very smoothly.
And also broke one of your select board members here. I've never felt pain like I felt finishing that race, so I
Good for
appreciate
you,
that.
Mike. That's commendable, the half marathon.
It was all
Good for
because of
you.
Cindy, but, she dared me, so.
Oh, boy.
Ah.
Well, you
She doesn't
can
remember daring me, but she said, you can get training, and I said, all right, fine, I'll train, but I might.
When I
have
saw
regretted
you
it.
on Easter Sunday, you had improved significantly.
I was faking it. I was in a lot of pain.
Well, congratulations, Mike.
But
That's
no, these guys,
that's
you know,
good.
and to that point, Joanne mentioned that not only the $30,000, but there's a lot of money, and I don't want to. That's kind of why I brought you up here. There's a lot of money that you folks raised.
Some of us consider it a challenge. We know what the neighboring towns do for their programs and some call it the Friends of their Council on Aging in their respective towns. Some call it the Boosters, but we're proud of the fact that we go into six figures every year, and it works. We pound the pavement, so to speak, but we have 3 or 4 dedicated people that love to do that knocking on the doors and picking up the phone and cold calling somebody. And for the most part, in a small town like this, it works, and we appreciate it. But we like the challenge.
That's absolutely fantastic. So we're very grateful. I'll take a motion.
I move that Mr. Paul Brogna, as representative of the Friends of the Duxbury Council on Aging, is granted a one-day wine and malt license to hold a COA Volunteer Appreciation Event on Thursday, June 20, 2024, at the Duxbury Senior Center on 10 Mayflower Street from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., contingent upon the conditions of the license.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Good night.
All right, we have some minutes. We have a vote to release minutes. And I'll let our clerk
Yeah, some of
explain.
these, I'll tell you who can and can't vote on these. So rather than, I would have liked to have done them all together, but we can't because of the timing. So I'll do them individually. So the first one is going to be June 9th of 2023. So I'll move.
If you could just explain for the public.
Oh, yeah, so these
what
are
this is all about.
executive session minutes. We have already approved these as to the form of the minutes. This is releasing them because the need for confidentiality has passed at this point. And pursuant to the open meeting law, we're now making the records public,
Thank you.
along with other regular minutes that we have. So I'll move that the Select Board release the following executive session minutes as the need for confidentiality has passed. June 9th, 2023.
No,
I'm sorry, January 9th, 2023. All can vote except me.
Second. Or, I'll let Cindy second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that the Select Board release the minutes of February 27th, 2023. Fernando and I cannot vote.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain. The next one is August 28th, 2023. Everyone can vote.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is February 15th, oh, you know what? These are in two columns, all right.
That's okay.
February 28th, no, I'm sorry, February 15th, 2024. Michael and Amy cannot vote. Uh-oh.
Want to hold those? We have to hold
All right.
that one.
We'll hold that one. January 23, 2023. I'm the only one who can't vote on that one.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain. April 10th, 2023. Looks like everybody can vote on that one.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And finally is September 18th, 2023, and the only person who can't vote is not here, so we're good.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. We just need that February 15th to come back. All right. Now we have some announcements.
Announcements. Number one, Memorial Day Parade and Ceremonies. The Memorial Day Parade will begin at 10 a.m. on Monday, May 27th, 2024, at the Standish Cemetery. We'll travel up Depot Street and continue directly to the Mayflower Cemetery for a brief ceremony, then on to the First Parish Church for a veteran tribute. Number two, Town Hall closure. Town Hall will be closed on Monday, May 27th, in observance of Memorial Day. There will be no Select Board meeting that evening. Number three, the next scheduled Select Board's meeting will be on Monday, June 3, 2024, at 7 o'clock p.m.
We have some bonus shellfish season.
Give it a try. I move that the Select Board declare a temporary bonus shellfish season for, number one, the commercial harvesting of soft shell clams for the month of June, and number two, the commercial harvesting of quahog clams for the month of June.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
You never want to sleep on the soft shell clams. It's always a tricky one.
Yes.
You get past the first part and then boom, hit you. All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.